A stunning act of violence snuffed out 4 lives today in a remote Saskatchewan community. A gunman opened fire in 2 locations, one of them the local high school. The painful details are still emerging, but what is already clear, it is one of the deadliest school shootings in Canadian history. It happened in the tiny community of La Loche, Saskatchewan, close-knit and hard to get to. This town of 2,600 is in shock tonight. Bonnie Allen is following developments from Regina. Bonnie.
Wendy, police say the gunman is in custody and there is no further risk to the public tonight. But in a community where everyone knows everyone, people are reeling and looking for answers.
Ambulance are still there. Cops.
Grade 10 student Noel Desjardins-Thomas was inside La Loche's high school around 1 o'clock when he says he saw the gunman and he heard screaming.
Lots of screaming. There was about 6-7 shots before I got outside. I believe that there was more shots by the time I did get out.
The Dene High School announced it was in lockdown. So was the nearby elementary school. Parents were told to stay away. Desjardins used his phone to record. He says both teachers and students were shot.
I was pretty close from that guy that was shooting. I ended up running and telling people to get out the doors, and then lots of people got out, but I was told that there were still people inside.
One male was taken into custody outside of the school, and a firearm was secured.
Police say the shooter killed people at 2 locations. In all, they confirm 4 dead and at least 2 critically injured.
In addition to those confirmed deceased, a number of people have been injured. We do not have that information about the type or extent of their injuries.
This screen grab of a Facebook group chat may tell part of the story. Residents from La Loche say it was the gunman's warning. I'm done with life. Just killed 2 people. About to shoot up the school. Then he names 2 of the victims before presumably moving on to the school. La Loche is a remote community with few resources. The small RCMP detachment overwhelmed. In fact, the first person to confirm fatalities was the Prime Minister speaking from Switzerland.
This is every parent's worst nightmare, and all of us across this country's hearts are going out to the families and to the whole community.
My sister's son was in the school, and so we were fairly concerned and very saddened and very shocked about what we were hearing.
Premier Brad Walz said, "Words cannot express my shock and sorrow at the horrific events today in La Loche. My thoughts and prayers are with all the victims, their families and friends, and all the people of the community."
And Wendy, as isolated as this community is, it's not easy to call in backup. So it's not easy or quick by road or by air for help to come in. The province says that it's sending in emergency officials as well as crisis counselors. That the Premier says they will throw everything at it. We know that the nurses at the local clinic are scrambling to help gunshot victims. The STARS helicopter was called in for medical evacuations. Even people in the community tonight don't really know who all the victims are. We spoke to one mother who believes her daughter was killed. She hasn't received official confirmation. She's now sitting in her house, Wendy, waiting for a police officer to come to her door or for her phone to ring.
So it sounds like the whole community is reeling, such a close-knit community. How central is the school?
Well, the population of the community is about 2,600, and the high school and the elementary school together have about 900 students as well as 100 teachers. So really 1 in 3 people are directly connected to the school, as well as the hundreds of people who have attended the school. So everyone knows someone who was affected by the shooting.
Thanks so much, Bonnie. We'll come back to you a little later on this story. The Prime Minister spoke at length tonight about the shooting. Here's more of what he had to say from Davos, Switzerland. And note, this was before the RCMP changed its information, now confirming 4 people are dead.
The country's heart is breaking for the people of La Loche, Saskatchewan today. There was a shooting in the community. 5 people were killed. 2 others are in critical condition. The situation is no longer active, and the suspected shooter has been taken into custody. I was immediately in touch with the Minister of Public Safety, the Honourable Ralph Goodale, and the Commissioner of the RCMP, Commissioner Bob Paulson, and I am being updated regularly. I have also spoken to the Premier of Saskatchewan, Brad Wall, the local MP, Georgina Jolibois, and the Mayor of La Loche, Kevin Janvier, to express both our sympathy and our support. I want to thank the first responders who have acted swiftly and bravely. We all grieve with and stand with the community of La Loche and all of Saskatchewan on this terrible, tragic day. Obviously, this is every parent's worst nightmare. When I spoke with community leaders, they obviously expressed that the community is reeling, and all of us across this country's hearts are going out to the families and to the whole community.
As you saw in Bonnie's story, the RCMP held a news conference after Trudeau, lowering the number of confirmed deaths to 4 and confirming that their investigation is at 2 locations, the school and a home in the community. But RCMP declined to answer the many questions about exactly what happened and who the victims are.
I cannot give any information about their sex or their ages. We're early onset of our investigation, and we want to ensure the integrity of the investigation, so I cannot give you that right now.
What can you tell us about the shooter that can confirm that they are in custody? Any details? When do you expect charges? That kind of
I can tell you that we have 1 male in custody. Public safety is no longer at risk, and we have secured the firearm.
How old is he?
I'm not going to comment on that. Our investigation is ongoing.
You can't say anything about unconfirmed reports of the shooter being related to any of the victims?
I cannot.
I've heard rumors that there was a group chat of some sort where the shooter said he was on his way to the high school to start shooting.
I don't have any information to that.
Anything you can tell us about what happens next?
I can tell you that we have specialized police personnel on site, major crimes, forensic identification, section specialists, general duty members, police dog services. I will not tell you the amount of members that are in that community for safety reasons, obviously. And I'm going to close.
More than usual, obviously.
Yes, we have additional resources in the community right now, given the tragedy. But the one thing, and I'm going to leave after this question, is I want to make sure everybody's absolutely sure that the public safety is no longer at risk.
What happened in La Loche is a grim reminder to Canadians that we are not immune to such violence. School shootings are rare in Canada, but they've left their mark. Chris Brown has that.
Canadians have become numb to stories of mass violence in American schools. The 26th slain at Sandy Hook Elementary is but the worst of a long, awful list of frequent death in the classroom. But such violence remains unusual in this country.
They still are rare events, but there have been enough of them now that there have been signs of patterns, unfortunately.
Wendy Roth of UBC collaborated on a book about school shootings.
When I first heard that there had been a shooting, I wasn't surprised to hear that it was at in a very small, isolated community. And, you know, part of the reason for that is that there are a number of shooters, and they usually tend to be male, who are frustrated with their entire community, their school, and they take out their rage on the school because of a feeling that the school symbolizes the community.
Canada's first taste of a high school shooting involving a fellow classmate was in Brampton in 1975. 2 died, 13 were injured. Shootings at Canadian universities have been just as infrequent, yet have left a larger death toll than at schools. Montreal's École Polytechnique massacre in 1989 remains Canada's worst. 14 women were murdered, 10 others injured. 3 years later, a Concordia professor shot and killed 4 former colleagues. And in 2006, Dawson College was a scene of mass violence, with 1 dead and 19 injured at the hands of another gunman. In 1999, Alberta police believe the Columbine High School massacre near Denver, where 12 died, inspired a copycat murder in the town of Tabor. A 14-year-old boy walked into a school, shooting at random, killing student Jason Lang and wounding 3 others.
we know that there is a copycat effect aspect to this, that some of the shooters in later shootings will actually reference earlier shooters, that they have seen it and they idealize them in some way, or they want more fame or more attention.
She says in every case where people are murdered, the response from the wider community is crucial, with counseling and help for survivors determining how well communities pull through. Chris Brown, CBC News, Vancouver.
Messages of condolence are coming in from across the country tonight for the community of La Loche, including one from the U.S. ambassador to Canada. In a statement, Bruce Heyman said, "We have experienced similar tragedies far too often in the United States and understand all too well the heartache and sadness that result from such a horrific event. Our thoughts and prayers remain with the victims and their families, the community of La Loche, the residents of Saskatchewan, and all Canadians during this most difficult time." Let's go back to the CBC's Bonnie Allen in Regina. So, Bonnie, obviously La Loche has never seen anything like this before, but it's a community that's had its fair share of problems, and you've covered some of those in the past.
That's right, Wendy. This community has a long history of addictions issues, a high rate of suicide and violence. In fact, just last year, I interviewed a school teacher who was forced to leave the community after a former student broke into her home, stabbed her at least 3 times, and stole her truck. It wasn't the first time. She says she had been attacked by a student. Another had tried to stab her with scissors in the classroom. Now, we've also reported on the past about angry mobs attacking RCMP members or paramedics. Nothing to this extent, but certainly in the past, community leaders have tried to draw attention to some of the social issues in La Loche that seem to lead to violence.
Thanks so much, Bonnie. We're going to come back to you later in the program. We want to take you back to our top story now. A horrific and heartbreaking day in the remote Saskatchewan community of La Loche. 4 people are dead, more injured, after a man shot multiple people this afternoon, some of them at a high school. We want to take you through the details of the day. Here again is what RCMP Chief Superintendent Maureen Levy told reporters this evening.
Shortly after 1 p.m. today, the La Loche RCMP received a complaint of a person discharging a weapon in the community of La Loche. As a result of the complaint, members attended to the La Loche Community School at the Dene High School. Investigators immediately began searching for a suspect, and at 1:47 p.m., one male was taken into custody outside of the school and a firearm was secured. Investigators are currently present at 2 locations in La Loche, the first one being the 300 block of Dene Crescent and the second, Dene High School. The public is asked to not attend these locations at this time. Initial information was that there were 5 deaths as a result of this tragedy. At this time, I can confirm that 4 individuals are deceased. I cannot release the identity of the victims as the investigation is ongoing. In addition to those confirmed deceased, a number of people have been injured. We do not have that information about the type or extent of their injuries.
And the CBC's Bonnie Allen is in Regina and joins us again now. So, Bonnie, huge story. Tell us more details about what we know and also what we don't know.
Well, we know that gunman walked into La Loche's high school just after 1 o'clock, and an eyewitness tells us he saw the gunman shoot both teachers and students. You heard the RCMP say there are 4 confirmed dead, and at least 2 are critically injured, many more suffering injuries. RCMP also said there are 2 locations, and what we don't know, Wendy, is whether the gunman shot people at 2 different locations. A screen grab of a Facebook chat that we've obtained would suggest that the suspected shooter killed 2 people at 1 location before presumably moving on to the school. We also don't know the age or the gender of those who have died. We just got off the phone with one mother who believes her daughter was killed but has not received official official confirmation, and she's now in that heart-wrenching process of sitting in her house waiting for a police officer to come to her door or to get a phone call. We also don't know much, of course, about the gunman other than the fact that police say they have a suspect in custody and that there is no further risk to the public tonight. And we also know that there are already vigils being planned in the community and that people are really in shock.
Understandably. Thanks so much, Bonnie. Bonnie Allen, good reporting tonight. Thank you. We will be right back with more on The National.
Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. It has been a brutal day in northern Saskatchewan. A school shooting in the small mill town of La Loche has left 4 people dead and others wounded. It's what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has called every parent's worst nightmare. Our Susanna De Silva has been following the day's events. She joins us live tonight with more. Susanna.
Well, Dan, the shooting began at around 1 o'clock at the community high school and sent teachers and students obviously running for cover. The RCMP saying they arrested a male with a gun about 47 minutes later, but not before 4 people were killed as well as others were injured. They aren't confirming any details about that shooter, what his connection may have been to the school, any of those details. They aren't confirming this tonight or how many other people are injured at this point. Now, a resident, Kevin Janvier, spoke with the Associated Press tonight, and he made the painful confirmation that his daughter was a teacher at that school and was one of the victims that was killed there tonight. He also told the Associated Press that the police told him that the shooter first began at his home where he shot 2 of his siblings before then carrying on to the school. That's something police again would not confirm, but do say they do have investigators at 2 different locations in that very small, tight-knit community. Now, we did earlier speak with a grade 10 student who was in the school at the time. Here's how he describes what happened.
There was 6 shots by the time I got outside. Me, myself, I'm fine. I was pretty close from that guy that was shooting. I ended up running and telling people to get out the doors, and then I guess we have a school policy where once something happens, like a bad thing goes down, like a fight or something, they say lockdown, and then all the students are supposed to go inside the classrooms. But during that time, I was telling people to run outside, and then they were doing that.
Same student also said that he understood that the shooter had spoken online in some sort of a chat forum somewhere, talking about the fact that he had shot 2 people and was on his way to the school. That's another detail the RCMP are not confirming at this point. But again, it's a very small community, very tight-knit, and a lot of extra resources are being brought in as far as investigators, but also to help the community deal with what's happened. Dan?
Thank you, Susie. Susanna De Silva reporting live for us tonight.